325 million views. #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 consecutive weeks. Netflix's most watched film of all time. 10 years ago, Kim Eun-jae spent a decade training at SM Entertainment and never debuted. Today, she's EJAE, and Golden just made history. This is how rejection became redirection. Seoul, South Korea, 2003. Kim Eun-jae was 11 years old when she joined SM Entertainment's trainee program, one of K-pop's most prestigious and demanding systems. For context, the K-pop trainee system is intense. Daily vocal lessons, hours of dance practice, language classes, media training, weight monitoring, all while attending school. Companies invest years developing trainees, but only a small percentage ever debut. Eun-jae trained alongside future legends. She was there as Super Junior prepared for debut. She watched Girls' Generation transform from trainees to global superstars. She saw SHINee and FX rise to fame. She balanced everything, even attending an international school, traveling between South Korea and the United States for her education, while maintaining her training schedule. Years passed. 5, 7, 10. Groups debuted around her. Her name never appeared on a debut lineup. By 2014-2015, Eun-jae was in her early 20s. She'd given SM Entertainment nearly a decade, from age 11 to 23. Then her contract ended. No debut, no group, no solo career. Just over. Later, in interviews, she described what happened next. She cried in the taxi on her way home. Not just disappointment, the kind of grief that comes when you realize the future you imagined doesn't exist anymore. She said she felt sorry for herself. But more than that, she hated herself for not achieving what she'd worked toward for 10 years. For a month, she couldn't function. The depression was real. All she could do was cry and sleep. And the complicated part? She resented K-pop. Deeply. The industry she'd devoted her entire youth to had no place for her. Most people would walk away entirely at that point. But Eun-jae loved music. The question became, if the industry wouldn't let her in as a performer, could she find another way? Here's where the story shifts. Eun-jae decided to learn music production, not as a backup plan, as a new path forward. She stayed at cafes until closing, teaching herself to make beats. Hours and hours of work that nobody saw. She enrolled at New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, studying music production and psychology. She was trying to understand not just how to make music, but why it connects with people. During this time, she discovered the underground SoundCloud scene, artists like Taku, Songo, and Shlomo. This wasn't polished K-pop. It was raw, experimental, emotional. Making music became therapeutic, a way to process what she'd been through, a way to reclaim her relationship with music on her own terms. She built her skills quietly, posting tracks online, learning the craft. And then, 2017. SM Entertainment hosted a songwriting camp, bringing in outside writers to create music for their artists. Eun-jae attended. Walking back into that building must have felt surreal. The place that had been her entire world for 10 years, where she'd been told she wasn't enough. Day 1 of the camp, she wrote a song. She channeled her own experiences with complicated relationships, with push and pull dynamics, with love that doesn't quite work. The song was called Psycho. Red Velvet recorded it, the group that had debuted while she was still training. Released in 2019, it became massive. Certified gold in the United States, one of their signature tracks. And suddenly, people wanted to hear what else she could write. The success of Psycho opened doors. EJAE, the professional name she'd adopted, started writing for major K-pop acts, aespa's Drama and Armageddon, Les Seraphim, So Cynical, Badum, Twice, Last Waltz, N-Mix's OO and Dice, multiple tracks for SM Entertainment artists. She'd found her place in the industry, behind the scenes, where her understanding of K-pop, built over 10 years of training, became her greatest asset. For several years, this was her career. A songwriter whose name appeared in album credits, known to industry insiders, but not to the public. Then, late 2020, Netflix called. Netflix was developing an animated musical film, K-pop Demon Hunters. The concept, a K-pop girl group that fights demons, needed authentic music created by someone who understood K-pop from the inside. They found EJAE. She joined the songwriting team and demoed several key tracks: Golden, How It's Done, What It Sounds Like, Your Idol. Director Maggie Kang later said EJAE's demos were one of the main reasons Netflix greenlit the film. The music was strong enough to bet a $100 million budget on. Then the directors asked if she'd voice the main character, Rumi, for the musical numbers. EJAE was surprised. She'd spent years telling herself she wasn't meant to perform. That door had closed. Eun-jae trained alongside future legends. She was there as Super Junior prepared for debut. She watched Girls' Generation transform from trainees to global superstars. She saw SHINee and FX rise to fame. She balanced everything, even attending an international school, traveling between South Korea and the United States for her education, while maintaining her training schedule. Years passed. 5, 7, 10. Groups debuted around her. Her name never appeared on a debut lineup. By 2014-2015, Eun-jae was in her early 20s. She'd given SM Entertainment nearly a decade, from age 11 to 23. Then, her contract ended. No debut, no group, no solo career, just over. Later, in interviews, she described what happened next. She cried in the taxi on her way home. Not just disappointment, the kind of grief that comes when you realize the future you imagined doesn't exist anymore. But Rumi's character resonated with her. A perfectionist trying to hide her flaws. Someone driven to chase her dream despite impossible obstacles. Someone carrying wounds others couldn't see. She said yes. EJAE co-wrote Golden with Mark Sonnenblick and producers from The Black Label. She's described writing the melody on her way to the dentist. It just came to her. The phrase "gonna be golden" followed naturally. But the technical ambition is remarkable. The song spans 3 octaves and hits an A5 note, typically reserved for operatic sopranos. In one interview, she explained, "It's an animation, and the story behind the character was more important. It needed that desperate climb in tone to express her feelings." She wrote it so high that she herself sometimes struggles to perform it live. But that's intentional. It's a song about reaching for something impossibly difficult, about refusing to settle. As a former trainee who knows what that pressure feels like, she poured all of it into 4 minutes of music. K-pop Demon Hunters premiered on Netflix on June 20th, 2025. Film performance became Netflix's most watched animated film within 1 month. Currently, Netflix's most watched film ever, 325 million views. 20 consecutive weeks in Netflix's top 10. Limited theatrical sing-along release topped the US box office Golden chart. Performance debuted at #1 on Billboard Hot 100. Stayed at #1 for 8 consecutive weeks. First female K-pop song to reach #1 in both US and UK. Over 850 million streams on Spotify. #1 on Billboard Global 200 and Global Exclusive US charts. Soundtrack success. First soundtrack ever with 4 simultaneous Billboard Top 10 songs. Reached #2 on Billboard 200 album chart. Certified platinum by RIAA. Over 7 billion global streams. Won Best Original Soundtrack at K-World Dream Awards. Submitted for Grammy and Oscar consideration. The success was unprecedented for an animated film soundtrack. The film became a cultural phenomenon. EJAE, who'd never had a public presence as a performer, suddenly needed a social media strategy. She gained 100,000 Instagram followers in a month. She signed with WME, a major talent agency. She performed Golden on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and appeared in a Saturday Night Live skit. Netflix partnered with Hasbro and Mattel for merchandise. South Korea's major entertainment stocks all rose on the film's success. An Everland theme park created a K-pop demon hunter zone. Billboard noted the film was boosting K-pop music industry-wide, with analysts predicting increased international consumption of Korean cultural products. The film was compared to Disney's Encanto in terms of its unexpected streaming dominance and cultural reach. On October 24, 2025, 13 years after leaving SM Entertainment, EJAE released In Another World, her debut solo single. In announcing the release, she wrote on Instagram, "For years, writing has been my therapy, my way of coping, celebrating, making sense of the noise in my head. Along the way, I wrote some songs that never found the right home. I've decided I want my artist project to give life to those songs, so people can laugh, dance, or cry with me." The title In Another World carries weight. Maybe in another world, she debuted at 18. Maybe in another world, that canceled SM group happened. Maybe in another world, she became the idol she trained to be. But in this world, she became something different. EJAE's journey matters beyond her personal success. For decades, the K-pop system has defined success one way: debut as an idol, become a star, achieve fame. If you don't debut, you failed. EJAE proved there are other paths. Her story shows that the skills trainees develop, understanding of musical structure, performance standards, what connects with audiences, have value in multiple roles within the industry. Since Golden's success, there's been increased discussion in K-pop circles about alternative career paths for trainees, about songwriting and production as valid, prestigious options, about how making it can look different than you imagined. EJAE has become an example for current trainees. If the traditional path doesn't work out, you're not finished. You're just getting redirected. In interviews, EJAE has talked about imposter syndrome, about being surprised people want to hear her sing, about how those early experiences of rejection still affect her self-perception. She said, "Winning a Grammy will be a message to every Asian American girl who's ever felt imposter syndrome." But the message extends further. From age 11 to 23, she gave everything to one dream. When that dream died, she had to rebuild completely. New skills, new identity, new definition of success. Those 10 years at SM weren't wasted. They were preparation. She learned the industry from the inside. She trained with the best. She understood K-pop at its core. And when traditional success didn't happen, she used all of it to create a different kind of career. One where she wrote Psycho for Red Velvet, the group that debuted instead of her. Where she composed for aespa, Twice, and Les Seraphim. Where she finally became the voice behind the biggest animated film in Netflix history. At 33, she's performing on late-night television. She's being submitted for Oscars and Grammys. She's releasing solo music. The girl who once practiced in SM training rooms is now writing songs that reach the entire world. Not every dream comes true the way you expect. But sometimes, if you're willing to rebuild, to learn new skills, to redefine success, it turns into something even bigger than you imagined. That's EJAE's story, from trainee to triumph, from You'll Never Debut to Netflix's most watched film, from rejection to redirection. If you found this story valuable, subscribe for more deep dives into music industry careers. What other K-pop stories would you like to see covered? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.